Yo, yo, it is with great pleasure that we welcome you to another episode of Daptime. I'm AJ, also known as B-Dub, Bobby Westbrook, and I'm here alongside my brother Big Game. And we invite you to a conversation that we hope is going to make you laugh a little bit. Hopefully you'll learn something and then ultimately walk away living life a little bit better. So with no more hesitation, it is time to relax your spine and activate your mind. Let's get it. Big Dame, what up?
Man, I'm good, bro. How about you?
I am doing well, brother. I'm always thrilled to jump on here and have a conversation with you. How is your week thus far?
Man, it's good, man. It's good. We're still rolling. We're still rolling on along, getting by, adjusting and doing our thing,
How was your Easter?
It was beautiful. That's the only word I can use to describe it. It was a beautiful occasion. How about yours?
It was good, man. It was great, actually. I mean, it was, I said that I thought Easter was going to be more personal for people this year. And I was sharing with folks, man, it was that for me for sure, man. I had a wonderful, wonderful Easter from, the uniqueness of a remote worship service, in my kitchen to what I did with the rest of the day, getting out and experiencing a little bit of nature, but in solitude, right? Because you got to practice social distancing and be responsible. So
Sure.
It was a really, really beautiful day.
Cool. That's a good thing, man.
Did you guys I know you were saying you and Sid were gonna have some time together with prayer. The family was gonna be praying in the morning. Did you guys do that?
Yeah, we did. We got together. We had prayer, and we ended up, watching a service, streaming a service, and just had a good time, man. Just enjoyed each other. Just really enjoyed each other. So, and to me, that's what it's really all about. They're my gifts, and I got to spend time with them. So I was happy about that.
Well, that is to me a great thing to hear. I don't think I've heard anyone say anything negative, like oh my God, I didn't enjoy any parts of Easter. Few people talked about missing aspects, like we had talked about in last week's episode, but for the most part, man, people have talked about how much they enjoyed it. So I'm glad to hear that. There's a lot that's transpired in the last week with COVID. I mean, it's interesting because we seem to have kicked off each one of these episodes kind of getting a pulse reading on, what's the latest with COVID-19.
Right.
And what's been a trip is you've had people talking about the economy tanking on one side. You've had, different projections about how quickly this will wrap up and if we're flattening out. But I thought one of the more interesting things happened yesterday, comically, right? And, I've been adamant. I am not watching more than, 10, 15 minutes of the news, and I'm spacing that out as far as possible.
Right.
I saw that Trump went at Dr. Fauci, who has been, he's been the main, health resource to kind of give a sense of confidence about where we are. Like he's been the most trusted resource for most people. And I guess he contradicted something that the president said, and the president wasn't happy about it. Like,
of course,
they went back and forth, and so I think it's kind of become the effect of some of this president's missteps could not be avoided at this point again. But it makes, calls into question like where we're getting information from in the news as it relates to this.
Right.
What about you guys there? Are you guys there on the East Coast? Are you getting your news from the major primary news resources, or are you finding people really relying on local mediums and kind of the pulse of what's going on in and around the city?
It's crazy, man. It's a little bit of both. I mean, of course, the national mediums are there, but everybody's cashing in on this. This is a story. This is the story. So local news is cashing in. Everybody has stories on it. What I'm doing a lot of actually is social media. There's a couple of doctors that I follow that give some updates, and these are frontline people that are dealing with it in the hospitals. They're seeing the facts, the data, and they're speaking to that. So I kind of get a little bit of that. I get a little bit of the national
Mm-hmm.
news, and then I just kind of formulate my own opinion from there because, unfortunately, too much of the national news there's a grain of truth in every story. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what the way we're doing it here.
You almost have to, I think, balance it,
Yeah.
because I think if people rely too heavily on what's going on from the national head. Somebody sent a tweet to me earlier in the week. Actually, early in the week. This is early in the week, but I got it, I think, yesterday, and it had a cut up of all these different stations, and let's just say it was a dozen to a dozen and a half news shows, right?
Mhm.
And all local, right? Local but affiliates of major national networks. And what was trippy about it is the cut up had each one of their lead-ins exactly the same,
Mm.
right? So it was whether you were looking at the local 6 o'clock news for Charlotte, or the local 6 o'clock news for St. Louis, or local 6 o'clock news for you know Tacoma, Washington.
Mhm.
All had the exact same verbiage as their 6 o'clock lead in. And what was alarming was, you're thinking about, well, what's the message here, right? Who's disseminating this?
Right.
And at first, first glance, you want to say, oh, well, they're all Fox affiliates. But then as you pay attention, and this was probably like a 2 or 3 minute clip, ABC was there, NBC
Mhm.
was there. And it was kind of like, well, wow, all the affiliates are saying the same thing. And I think one of the clips was talking about the threat of fake news, and things like that. But you're kind of, it could be disheartening, right? If all you consume is what's given to you from the national platform, and you never talk to people or look outside your front door, take a look up and down your block, talk to your neighbors
Mhm.
to get a sense of what really is going on. You have to balance it, right? So the national may be useful to kind of put your eyeball in a direction, whereas I think getting a feel for what's going on inside the community has to be the the main vehicle for finding a place of balance within which we can work and stand.
Right. Well, I mean, that's what affects you, right? Your community. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like everybody gets up in arms about the presidential election. Who you voting for? Who you vote? But
Mm-hmm.
there's not so much buzz around the local elections. Those are the elections that affect you directly right now. You know what I mean? So yeah, I agree with you. I think local news. I think social media. I think just being in tune with your own community, your own city, your own state is better. You're better served to do that because you're going to find out how things are affecting you. The way this virus is affecting New York, it's not affecting me the same way, my area the same way. Um,
Right.
but I can look at New York and tell
Right.
that if we don't do certain things, we could end up in that same kind of boat, in a couple of weeks. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a lot of information out there, a lot to comb through. So yeah, got to be careful where you get it from, though.
It is, man. It does. It actually puts a different. The interesting part to me is that the news, they've got command over everything that is current and relevant for most people, right? People want to check in. Okay, have the numbers changed? Is there any shift in what's required? So they've got a captive audience,
Mhm.
and in some cases more so than normal, because um, you don't have people able to get the escape that we had with sports, right? Because there's not a game on tonight. There's not, oh man, Brown's coming to town, so I'm doing it, or whatever, right?
Right.
Any of that stuff, right? Baseball, you're not getting close to NBA playoff run, none of that. And it what's been funny to me is that I can turn sometimes, and because they haven't changed those updates, even though they've got breaking news there, I'm going back to ESPN like, please give me something, please, because
Right.
I want to miss my sports. But what has been cool is that when I go back, because NBA TV is giving you stuff, NFL is giving you stuff, I'm getting some classics, right? So last night,
Mm-hmm.
NBA TV drops the Knicks and the Pacers
Mm.
when Reggie went for 25 in the fourth.
Oh, when he brought him back at the end.
And yeah.
Oh
And so
man.
I am like, okay, so I'm tuned in right now. I'm a Reggie Miller fan light. I'm not a heavy Reggie Miller fan, but I'm a fan light.
Hold
Appreciate the
on.
way he shot, but I really dug his sister more
Mm-hmm.
because in high school, my I don't know, I'm going to say freshman year maybe of high school. It might have been my 8th grade year, but she came up. She was, I think, Riverside High, but wherever she went to high school in LA, they came up here to play for state. Back then, the Tournament of Champions was a big deal, and the TOC could be its own episode uh, one of these days, because I think the TOC should be brought back. But anyway, the Tournament of Champions was a big deal, right? It was a way that you kind of got to your state champion and get there early. And Cheryl Miller, as a senior, now she had gone for 109, I think, in
Mm-hmm.
one game, or maybe she went for 101 game in high school. So I'm fascinated just from that, right? Oh man, I'm gonna see this female who has gone for 100 in a game. Man, I watched her pregame, and I'm gonna say conservatively, she did 50 tips on each side of the backboard as part of her personal warm up
Wow.
as a high schooler. And I'm not like, she jumps, she tip in, she's rest. Like she's going up constantly, just tip, boom, 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 back and forth. So, that's how I get introduced to the Miller clan,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then Reggie at UCLA gets in the league, and I hear the stories about her beating her brother, and that whole back and forth. So I kind of got into Reggie from that angle, and I like that he would go at Jordan, yada yada. So last night when I'm watching the game, I'm thinking, okay, this is that guy. And even though I knew what he did, it was like watching it for the first time to watch him ascend emotionally
Mm-hmm.
and go from a fairly pedestrian first half, first three quarters, to completely unconscious in the fourth. And his intention in looking at Spike with each, oh man, it was riveting, and that was theater worth tuning in for. So I will say, even though there's nothing current in terms of the sporting world happening, some of those old things are definitely worth going back and checking out.
I agree wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly. I've been trying to keep up myself with a few of the classics, man. And I mean they had on the Texas USC championship game, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a classic from I want to say '04, '05. Vince Young,
Yeah.
Reggie Bush, Liner, they were going for the three-peat. USC was going for the three-peat, and
Mm-hmm.
Texas knocked them off. But great game. I mean, great game. So just to be able to relive some of that past history is really cool at this time too. And it just lets you know how timeless sports is.
It
You
makes
know,
you appreciate what they did, right?
absolutely.
Um, and it's kind of funny, man. And maybe it's a byproduct of kind of where my mind has been in the last few weeks with this. I think I've talked to a few people. You and I've had a conversation or two that being sheltered, you're finding new ways um, to fill the time, fill the void. You don't have that thing that sucks time from you, and so between getting out and getting exercise, and catching up on some of those classic things, I think has kind of been invigorating to some degree.
Yeah.
Um, which kind of serves as a great launch pad for our feature segment for this week. When we were talking, I love the idea of looking at health, right, and wellness, and I think there's something to be said for prioritizing health and wellness, but to
Mm-hmm.
really look at it from a 360-degree vantage point, to look at all sides of that. So we agreed. I mean, maybe we may do this in a couple of different segments. Maybe it's not just a one episode. And I really hope it's not, like many things that are the result of this pandemic. I'm hoping that the good things are things that stay with us, and a concentration on health and wellness um, as a way of life. I think it would be one of those things I'd love to not only personally carry forward, but to make it a part of what we share with the folks who are part of our community and this movement, listening with us. So
Mm-hmm.
to begin, I wanted to just kind of throw at you, what is your, how do you personally weight, prioritize, and value health and wellness? Um, and then maybe part two of that is how do you see that as it affects, say, the average everyday person?
So, okay. So for the first part of the question, how do I prioritize health and wellness? I want to start off by throwing a couple of statistics out there that I've been noticing lately in the news, and you know, of course, back to COVID-19. One of the big things is pre-existing conditions. They say 98% of people, if you're in decent health, and you know, you should be okay. But where it's hurting people is people with pre-existing conditions, elderly people with pre-existing conditions, things of that nature. So I want to throw a couple of things out there just to put some things in perspective. So now, did you know that blacks in Michigan account for 15% of the population of the whole state? So 15% of the state of Michigan is black, but they also represent 35% of those diagnosed with COVID-19.
Wow.
So at the
Wow.
same time, they account for 40% of all deaths statewide. So now that's in Michigan. I know Detroit personally. I know my goddaughter works in the hospital downtown in Detroit, in the city. They're being hit extremely hard. So when I look at stuff like that, the numbers in New York or excuse me, Illinois are very similar. Um, and of course, New York, New Orleans, Atlanta, these are all hot spots as well. I know out there in California, you guys are seeing, seeing a lot of activity as well. So,
Hmm.
my point with that is our community, the black community, is plagued with pre-existing conditions, whether it be diabetes, whether it be high blood pressure, gout.
Hmm.
Pick one. It could be anything from the light
Right.
to the heavy. You know what I mean?
I
So,
do.
and we joke about it. We joke about, there's people, you can go to a family function and there are aunties or big mamas that will fight you if you try to take the salt out their hand. To season their food. And I get it. Food needs to be seasoned. But I think one thing that I've kind of picked up on in my lifetime is that um, everything that we've been taught might not be right. And I think overall, you know, the behaviors that we've exemplified with food as a community, as a culture, may not be the healthiest behaviors. So for me, I believe just for as far as health and wellness, for me, it starts with how I eat, what I eat, and I'm not here to say I eat perfectly at all, but I do recognize that there's a direct correlation to what you put in your body and what you get out of your body. You know what I mean? There
Hmm.
just is, and there's no way around it. So I think, a lot of times, we're brought up to, well, you better exercise, go hit the gym, lift weights, you do all of that, but you eat whatever you want to eat. And I think, it's time we started to recognize that it's important what we eat as well. It's important to
Hmm.
exercise. It's important to get that movement. It's important to get the blood circulating. It's important to work your muscles. But what you put in your body is what's going to actually rejuvenate your body. Your body rebuilds itself over cycles of time. So it can only use what you put in it, to rebuild. So I think that's kind of, for me, the biggest thing, as far as prioritize. That's what makes it a priority for me, because I know there's a lot of death, a lot of sickness, a lot of pain that could be avoided just simply by what we eat and how we take care of ourselves. Um, and unfortunately,
Hmm.
there's been too many of us that didn't realize that until it was too late. You know what I mean? So, and then what was the second part of the question? I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say I think there's a, you're nailing it. There's a correlation to food. And the other day or last week, I had this kind of hit home, right? So I made a
Mhm.
pot of greens. I just really wanted some greens. There, some kale and I think I put some mustard and or collards in there with them and some
Did,
spinach.
did
So
you
it's
put the
nice
ham
mixed
bone in?
greens, bad, no ham bone in it
Go ahead.
though. Tried to do the
Turkey
semi
wing or
healthy.
something?
Did throw some smoked turkey up in that pot though. But but my plan was right. I cooked the greens on Sunday, and I was like, I'm gonna have them, for the week. Right, they'll be kind of like a nice little lunch, whatever. So it was like
Mhm.
Tuesday or Wednesday of last week. I sat down and I had a bowl of greens for dinner. That was it. And as I was eating it, like this image of Big Mama popped in my head, and I remember how she ate.
Mhm.
Right, I remember how she cooked and how she ate. And it just so happened that that day I was having dinner at like 5:30, right? And as quick as I saw the image of her, I was reminded of kind of her life. Like it just became this moment of appreciating that she was up early, she was about her work, she pulled those greens most of the time out of her own garden. Um, Her breakfast she might have had man, I'm definitely sure by 6 o'clock, whatever breakfast she was having, she had.
Mhm.
Lunch was eaten at a decent hour, but she's moving throughout the day. Very little grass growing under her feet, if any, right? Like 'cause
Mhm.
she's doing it throughout the day. And there's an activity. So the activity piece is covered. She's covered the food because most of it was solid, but she also is not eating these like crazy portions, right? She might have a bowl of greens, grub that up. She might take some cornbread or hot water cornbread and have that with it, and that might be dinner. That's it, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
And if even if my grandfather came down, Big Daddy comes down, he's gonna have some ice cream. He would have it in funny. He would have it in like a teacup, a couple of, and that's it, right? But I mean, you're talking about him having dessert before the 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock news, and
Mhm.
and and after that, it's a wrap. It's shutting things down. So to your point, it's what we eat, it's how we eat, it's our relationship to food
Mhm.
that is powerful, and I think that is a critical note. Um, what do you think about the? I mean, you've talked a little bit about how some of the stats. But when you look around, do you think people really, the average person, takes the time or has the time to really think about what they process, or are the masses so programmed to just be on autopilot?
When you say process, you mean as far as what we eat, or?
Yeah, I mean, process like about how, rather not how to think about food, to not think about food in any other way than taste or feel.
I think we and I hate to, as a community, I'm gonna go there because that's what I really I see these numbers and it makes me really see where there's a need there, for education or awakening. You know what I mean? So I would say I think that we oftentimes are looking for some type of escape or some type of pleasantry. Um, I'm off work. Let me indulge in this or indulge in that. I've done this. Let me indulge in that. And I think what happens a lot of time with us, our relationship with food is like a
Mm.
recreational thing. You know what I mean? And it is for a lot of people. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you go out to eat. It's recreational. It is. And so, whether it's stopping at the store to get a Slurpee, it's a treat. Oh, y'all want to get Slurpees? Yay. You take the kids to get Slurpees. But there's so much sugar in a Slurpee. You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
whether or cookies or ice cream, everything is, and it's not like you talk about, your big dad, eating ice cream in a teacup. A teacup ain't but so big. He might have got two little spoonfuls
Mm-hmm.
in there, and he got his little taste, and he was good, and that was it. And then he slept. That was gone by
Mm-hmm.
10 o'clock that night, and he didn't eat anything else. So, whereas what we do now is we get the biggest bowl we can find and we fill it up with ice cream, and and that's what we do. So I think for us, I think a lot of times we just have to really think about what we're eating. I don't think we understand. Another thing is when you talk about Big Mama and Big Daddy, you know what I mean? I think about my grandparents and how they ate. They didn't eat the best food. I mean, they ate pork, they ate a lot of different things, a lot of vegetables as well, a lot of carbs and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. But a lot of it came from their garden. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's overlooked a lot of times because a lot of the food that we're eating, say what you want, you don't know where it's coming from and you don't know what they're putting in it. Period. You know what I mean? If you're buying it from the store, especially the processed food
Mm-hmm.
that we get a lot of, you don't know what's in that stuff. You don't know how it's able to stay on the shelves for weeks and months at a time and not go bad. You know? So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's something to take into consideration as well.
I
You
think
know?
you're scratching the surface of something which is part of why I feel like we're probably touching on something that we will continue to expand on because some of it, man. I mean, the health and fitness industry is booming. It
Hmm.
is booming,
Hmm.
and you know, the saying used to be, there are many different ways to skin a cat. Um, if you looked at the health and fitness industry, there are probably a billion different ways that people have proposed that you can lose weight from, supplements to programs. There certainly are the more conspicuous ones that have risen to the top. People have had wide ranging degree of success with some one or more at different times. I mean, some people have done Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, South Bay, Paleo, you name it in terms of diets. And then, you've got everybody from, Uncle Jack's Simple Jam to, 24-hour fitness,
Right.
the Bally's and whatever else, right? So there's all kind of ways to get there. There's the boot camp and there's the semi boot camp and a 6-week power camp and, all these different things. But I think at the core, and this is kind of what I think maybe we're getting at the core, it's a person's relationship with what goes into their body and what they want to get out of their body,
That's it. That's
right?
it.
And
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 that's
and part
yep.
of I think is at the core is do people even understand what their body means to the end game,
Mm, mm,
right? I mean, if you're not, I don't have to be a professional athlete to want my body in peak condition, and
mm-hmm.
I'm far from anywhere near peak condition. We know that, but but the journey, right, for me, I think has been discovering like what my body really means to my journey. And if I looked at it as if it were a car,
Mm,
and I've got my dream car in the garage, and I want to go hop in it and take it down, the coast, but I haven't put any fuel in it whatsoever.
there you go.
I already know how that's going to turn out. I'm sitting in the driveway with my eyes closed, turning the wheel,
Hmm.
envisioning we're going somewhere because we're not going nowhere with no fuel. You know what I'm saying? Right? If but we do that with our bodies so often, right? People start the day no breakfast, right? Or maybe they're rolling off a cup of coffee at best, right? And not
Hmm.
even thinking about it. Right. I'm just going and then running for the first 6 to 8 hours of the day, rolling to lunch, and your body isn't just craving fuel, it's craving all kinds of stuff because you haven't treated it right. You know what I'm saying? It's the same as if you got your dream car, you rolling along, you haven't fueled up properly, and you need to put in premium gas, ideally from one of the marquee fuel providers. But hey, there's Rotten Robbie. So let me pull in a Rotten Robbie and just, they only serve regular. Well, I mean, my light is on, so I got to,
Right.
you know what I mean. And so you putting that in your car, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm like that. I think we treat our bodies that way
Yeah.
because we don't value them.
Well, and I think that people don't. I think that yes, I agree with what you said exactly. I think there's a lack of value, and it's funny because you use the example of a car, and what I was initially thinking was people treat their cars better than their bodies. You see people and they're out there every Saturday or Sunday
Mm-hmm.
washing it
Mm-hmm.
down, polishing it down, wiping it down, getting it right. They only use 93 in it. They're not using no regular gas. It's got to be supreme. It stays on full. If it gets anything lower than half, I don't want any trash in my gas tank. So I got to fill it back up.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's like people that are that meticulous about their vehicles, but they'll go eat a Krispy Kreme donut, you know, 3 of them or 4 of them. That's fine too. But I'm just saying,
Mm-hmm.
I think we don't have an understanding of what is in what we're eating. I think that's the thing. Like for me, for example, I went, of course, I'm vegan. So I've been vegan for going on 3 years now. I've been vegetarian. I was vegetarian for a year and then I went vegan after a year of that. So I haven't had meat in almost 5 years. So, but that doesn't mean you're going to automatically, people see me and they're like, but you're not skinny. No, I'm not skinny because just because you don't eat meat doesn't mean that you're not eating anything. There's a lot of bad stuff
Right.
out there that's not
Right.
in meat. You know what I mean? So it
Right.
forced me to really understand what's in food. What am I eating? What am I not eating? What do I need to eat? One of the things I
Mm-hmm.
learned was the body can adapt and it can be fruitful off of liquid.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I learned. I didn't realize that you talk about eating a good breakfast and they tell you 3 square meals a day. You eat a good breakfast, you eat a good
Mm-hmm.
lunch, you eat a good dinner. Nothing could be further from the truth in actuality. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You can eat all throughout the day depending on what you're eating. You can drink water and teas and broths all day and be fine. It just depends on what you want to do with yourself and if you're prepared to do it. So when I look at that, if I think it's very important. I think we have to take the initiative. We have to stop blaming uh, whoever we're going to blame, and we have to start taking responsibility for gaining an understanding of what do I need to eat, what does my body need, because everybody's different too.
Right.
What works for me might not work for you. But for me,
Mm-hmm.
for example, for me, I know carbs put the weight on me. So I have to be careful with carbs. Some people can eat carbs all day and all night, and it doesn't matter. They're going to burn
Mm-hmm.
it off, or it just doesn't affect them like that. That's fine. So I think we have to take the onus on ourselves to gain an understanding for what works for us and then be able to apply, the proper foods to our diet, and that's how you're going to get the best fuel for your body. But until we take the responsibility for ourselves, there won't be a change. And I think that's really what it comes down to. And the thing about that change is, here's the important part about that change. I really want to stress for anybody that's listening. The important part about making that change for yourself is that it's going to trickle down to your children. It's going to trickle down to the kids in your neighborhood that see you. They see you eating a lot of fruit and
Mm-hmm.
talking, eating vegetables and promoting that movement. They're going to be on board with it. You know what I mean? And then next thing you
Mm-hmm.
know, you've got
Mm-hmm.
a whole generation coming up behind you of people that are conscious of what they're eating. They're getting fruits and vegetables in because it's good for them, and that it's not cliche. It's just what they should do, because that's what Big Dane does. You know what I mean? That's what Bobby Westbrook does. You know what I mean? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna do it too. You know what I mean? And then you're starting to, that's a true movement, that'll outlive you. You know what I mean? And not only outlive you, it'll outlive you a long ways, because these kids will live longer because they're healthier. I'm tired of seeing statistics. Whenever something pops up, I'm tired of seeing statistics that adversely affect our communities more than anybody else. And it's not,
Mm-hmm.
we got to stop. I'm not saying we're not under attack though. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's not some factors working against us, but we got to stop blaming that, and we got to start looking at what we're doing to help or not help ourselves. That's the big
Right.
thing for me.
I think you're touching on, we and I definitely think we could call this series Health 360. One of the things interesting to me about a 360-degree perspective is you want to start from the right spot,
Mhm.
right? Facing in the right direction. I mean, if I'm starting facing the wrong direction, I'm gonna end up in the wrong direction
Right
when
on.
I finish that
Right on.
360.
Yep.
So I think one of the things that we've uncovered in this initial segment on health is it really begins with your understanding and your individual perspective on your body's value. What do
Yeah.
you want? What do you see yourself getting out of your body? What does it mean to your journey? And how do you see it serving you? But I think the second thing you touched on here, which is important, is who will be impacted by your being healthy. And I think there are two elements to that. One is who's going to be directly impacted because they share in your journey directly, right?
Mhm.
So, is there a spouse, a loved one, a significant other, a child, children, parents, um, who is in that immediate circle, siblings, who benefits from, you being able to, have extra energy for the phone conversations that need to be had, or to get together for time hanging out and socializing, or to share in the responsibilities of caring for others. Who's going to be the direct recipient of your being a benefactor from your being healthy? I think that's the second piece of getting some self awareness and understanding the importance of health. And then I think the how becomes it becomes easier to see the how, right? Because you'll know, if I know, for instance, um, I'm going to need to drive an hour every weekend to go and relieve a loved one from their caring for another loved one. And when I drive that hour, I'm going to need to put in 2 or 3 hours. Then that kind of dictates to me how I'm going to have, what kind of reserves I'm going to need to have,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And that may govern, okay, I'm going to need to have the ability to get good rest during the course of the week. I'm going to have to eat right. I can't be, I'm going to need physical strength, right? So I'm going to start looking for programs, tools, and means that help me arrive there. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? As
Right.
opposed to, I'm just looking for, and that's important because the game of life that we're all in, which really isn't a game, but let's, for the sake of terms, let's call it that.
Right on.
The game is always looking for ways to rob you of opportunities to do the things you want to do, right? It's like any video game, right? You start off on these low levels. It's real easy, right? So the first thing you're doing, oh, okay, yeah, I want to be healthy. I want to be slimmer. I want to, I want to have more energy. I want to wear a nice clothes. No, get that stuff out your head. Think about the responsibilities that you have at first, the people that benefit, and then let that dictate how you get there. So for some of these conspicuous programs might be the best route to jumpstart them because there's accountability and they can share their story and they can get some of the other things that are important parts of health and wellness through them. For others, it could be as simple as I need to just change what I'm doing day to day. I need to implement a breakfast, right? I remember I don't even remember why I did it now, but a couple of years ago, randomly, and it might have been all that I had in the house for breakfast that day. I used to like to have the little yogurts or whatever, but this particular day I had oatmeal and I decided I just was craving it. I was like, oh, you know what? I've got oatmeal. Let me have it. So I made a serving of oatmeal and had it straight. I'm like, food is medicine, right? So I just had it straight.
Eat the lid.
I cannot tell you. Yeah, I mean, but I got to tell you, by 10 o'clock that morning, when I looked up and realized how I had powered through the first 2.5 hours of the day and the energy that I had and how alert I was, I thought somebody was playing a trick on me. I'm being 100% honest. I was like, man, that's crazy. And I thought it was exceptional. Like, oh, I just had my really good start today. So I tried it again the next day. And by the end of a week of doing that, I realized, man, if I have a serving of oatmeal, something in my body's makeup thrives physically off of it, but also impacts my ability to be alert. And it's the best fuel for me in the morning. You see what I'm saying? So for someone else, it can be as simple as tweaking what you're doing because you already have a little bit of a self-awareness and you're fine-tuning it to facilitate, your how because of the responsibilities and those people that you're impacting. For someone else, you might need the help of a program or a gym or a trainer to help, and a nutritionist to help you find those tools because you really don't have a baseline. But I think those are the three keys that I would say to our listeners. If you're looking at, I want to get the right perspective on health from a 360 vantage point, and I'm looking to start that as part of the journey while I'm in COVID. So when I get out of COVID-19 and I have to go back to, social distancing isn't the norm and I can move around. I don't want to be swayed by driving by Popeyes and the smell of that chicken wafting through the car to make a choice when I'm not hungry. I don't want to be driven to get back in the rat race of get up, have some coffee, get the kids to school. And I got to get to work. And, I'm not even eating until it's break time, midday. And I'm running down, grabbing, a cheesesteak and fries, and expect myself to be productive at the end of the day. I also
think you're talking about habit. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I also think that there's room, especially when you look at the people around you who are directly benefiting from your being healthy. There may be input as part of their process when you're trying to figure it out that you can get from them, So if you're a parent and you're not necessarily eating healthy, you don't have healthy practices in your home, pull your kids into that conversation, right?
Absolutely.
If you have a spouse in the home or significant other, ask them, what would it mean to you if I were my best self? And I would say, be prepared for the raw truth. Right. And to deal with that. And I'm saying that this way, right? The raw truth could be, hey, you're being healthy would mean the world to me because quietly I've been worried about whether or not you'll make it. I think that would be the easier of the two. You might hear, I don't really care. And if you discover you're with somebody who says they don't really care, pack your bags.
That's a different conversation altogether.
Right?
Right. So, yeah, I think, I agree with everything you're saying. I think a lot of what you touched on was habit forming. And not to belabor the
Mm-hmm.
point, because I think we are gonna continue this on for a few more sessions. So the next couple of episodes, just to let y'all know, be looking for more of this conversation, this health and wellness conversation, because I think it's important, and I think this time that we in has kind of highlighted that. We can do a lot of things, but ultimately we have to take responsibility for ourselves. But I think what you were talking about was habit forming, and you were talking about what we can do, and I think a lot of what we do is we want to find a way to look good. We want to look good for the summer. We got
Mm-hmm.
vacation coming up. We want to look good for that and what have you. And we have to get out of that mind state. We have to get to the place where, yes, we want to look good, but we want to be healthy. So if we do the things to be healthy, if we eat the way we need to eat, so we
Mm-hmm.
feel good, so our body's working good, the looking good is going to come. You know what I mean? The six pack is going to come. You know what I mean? Eventually, if you're eating correct,
Right.
if you're moving around, if you're getting the move, but you can't go for the six pack. There's bodybuilders all around the world dropping dead every day. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
God bless them. I'm not trying to put that out there, but they're not. They look good, but they're not putting the right things in their body. They're just trying to look good. So that's not what
Right.
we're trying to do. We're trying to be around so that when your grandkids jump up on your shoulders, you can pick them up. You know what I mean? And you can run
Yep.
around with them and play with them, and and we can have a good quality of life, from here, until with our families. So that's what this is all about. But
That's what it's all about.
bruh, I gotta tell you, bruh, it's I think this has been a great conversation, and I hate to end it, but I'm glad we're going to keep on going with it. But I think right now it's kind of a good segue into our Mama Said segment.
I'm with it. What you got for me?
Yeah. Well, there's one mom always used to tell me that it made perfect sense. It made perfect sense, and there's a couple times where she was right, but she always used to tell me, you know, if you hang around skunks long enough, you're gonna start to smell like one. It's kind of profound, right? I mean, it's kind of a crude way to tell you, but she was right. You hang around the wrong people long enough, man, it's gonna get you. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that's the Mama Said for the day, man. And I think there's a couple of people out there that you know that could that fall under that umbrella.
I think they've been around skunks for sure.
Now here's the thing. Here's the thing. You
That's
can
right in line. I think that
yeah,
with that you lie down with dogs, you're gonna come up with fleas.
fleas,
It's right in that same filthy animal
nasty
vermin
fleas.
space. Normally we use this as our, you get DAP, to some, and you give no DAP to others.
Hmm.
Um, in light of even things we were talking about earlier today, in today's segment with our president, I think they've been the best examples of that, right? Rudy Giuliani, I recall after 9/11, despite questions about him, um, and the way that he did policing or some of the policies then under him, by citizens in New York. He came out of 9/11 for most people on the national scene as a really respectable, quality leader. I remember him at a Yankee game, and
Yeah.
people will be like, "Oh my God, he's what a good job he's done helping New York after that," and that will always be on his resume.
Hmm.
But you go from that to who he is today. I mean, like, possibly a criminal, maybe. There's a lot of stuff. Certainly his decision making and some of the ways that he has been represented in the media, represented himself, have called
Hmm.
into question his character, which those things were only reserved for the man that he has sworn loyalty to.
Right.
So lay down with the skunk, and pretty soon you start smelling like him.
Man,
And I think he's a great example of that, and gets no DAP.
yeah.
Absolutely no DAP.
None at all, man. I smell something. When you just said his name, I started smelling something. I don't know. I'm not saying it's him. I'm just saying I smell something. That's all.
Right. So,
But 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 yeah, again, conversely, there's always a other side of the coin.
mhm,
And this one right here was kind of near and dear to my heart because I can remember when I was young. I literally remember my mother telling me this. I literally remember this, and now that I look back on it, she was right. She was right. You'll start to stink after a while,
mhm.
but
Right.
there's a young lady that used to be best friends with our current commander in chief, and or very friendly with our commander in chief, and that's Omarosa. You know, through the apprentice days and what have
Mhm,
you, and they were pretty tight. Um, she was hanging, but she was hanging.
mhm,
She was hanging pretty tough.
mhm.
Uh, into the presidency, I think she had a position. Within the I don't know if I want to say the cabinet, but within his realm, she had a position, and she was working with him, and
Mhm.
what have you, and never, you know, at some point she noticed, what? Maybe she smelled herself. I don't know. Maybe she just knew, it doesn't it doesn't smell right in here. So I got to do something. Or maybe her mother told her the same thing. I don't know. But she said, "You know what? I'm out." She wrote a tell-all book, and or maybe it was all the criminals that she saw getting locked up around him. I don't know.
Right.
But she wrote a tell-all book and got out of there. And for that, I have to give her props. Matter of fact, I have to give her big dap for getting out of town
Big
before she
dab.
smelled like a skunk. She
Big
smelled it,
dab for
she trotted it
Omarosa.
out. She got out of there, man. She got out of there. I'm not a big fan of hers, but she got out of there, and respect for that.
You
Respect, big
know,
dap.
we could actually give any and everyone who jumped ship from this administration big dap, who voluntarily jumped ship.
Yeah, it has
Because
to be voluntarily. Yeah, yeah,
I think it's even worse if if you're out because he booted you. Yeah, can't dap you up. I mean, glad you're not there, but you
it's like
would
getting
be.
kicked out of the Mickey Mouse
You
Club.
know?
You know, what are you doing?
But
you know,
definitely give super dap to the voluntary flight people in this case.
I agree. Salute.
Salute. Well, look, with that, I know we've come to the end of what I think has been another great episode, man, and I'm really excited about this series for our listeners. We are normally have been dropping one episode every week. But for the next 2 weeks, because this Health 360 is so important to us, we are going to pick it up a bit. So we'll be dropping 2 episodes for the next 3 weeks. And our feature topic will be health, and we'll look at it from different vantage points, hopefully uncovering things that help you in your own journey, explore your own relationship with your health and those of those closest to you, and at the same time, as we always want, help you live your life a little bit better and learn something along the way. So with that, if you have ideas, feel free to submit them. We encourage you to go to www.daptime.com and subscribe. And as a subscriber, you can email us suggestions, thoughts, topics, things that may help us in sharing with the rest of the community that we serve. You can also go to Twitter and like and follow us there at DAP_time. And we'll be happy to have you as fans and followers. Please share our episodes. All the latest episodes are posted there as well. If you have ideas for our Mama Says segment, we want to hear them. We've heard some, and you heard one today. Please, if you have been laying down with skunks, it might be a good time for you to get out. We don't want you stanking. But if you have other ideas for us, please submit those. And if we include it, we will send you a special virtual DAP package. And I guarantee you will like it. as always, we love to share our thoughts and ideas with you. We appreciate even more hearing from you. Remember to look in the mirror. There is your competition. This has been another episode of Daptime. We out.
Peace.